everybody. Welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Really do appreciate it. On today's show, episode 526, in fact, the latest on the Biden agenda. And, we're pretty much going to update you on infrastructure for a little bit. I can't really talk about that story for that much longer anyway, because it is just so depressing. Next, Trump, he may be blocked from social networks, but here is how his message is still spreading. We'll take a look at the really incredible effect that social media had on Trump in this election, which is very, of course, when I title the episode social media, how social media killed Donald Trump, I'm not talking about him in his personhood or him as a political threat, but the fact that he does not have nearly the same reach and power as he did in previous times. Also, ICE, with the interesting headline here in the New York Times, ICE meant to capture drug lords. Did it snare duped older Americans instead? Also, Peru has a choice, very, very scary choice to make, a left-wing, really interesting left-wing candidate in a really close head-to-head race with, really, the daughter of a former dictator there in Peru, and a weird article about the New York Times giving advice on friendships. This is Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this story here. We start off with the latest on infrastructure here in the New York Times. As President Biden is set to take the first international trip of his term on Wednesday, but negotiation of the future of American roads, bridges, and public works projects will be the top of his agenda before he leaves. President Biden will meet on Monday with Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia, the Republican leading infrastructure talks with the White House, for their second discussion in 2 days. But so far, a deal appears to be elusive. The president on Friday, thank goodness, he dismissed a $50 billion increase to a $928 billion. Again, they start off like $2.2 trillion, and Republicans have which was already a compromise. But the Republicans have pretty much pushed them into negotiating this down to, something a little bit more acceptable. But less harsh tax increases on the rich, all that stuff. Like the stuff that, again, Democrats didn't want to do either. But I'll get to that in a second. But the president on Friday, he dismissed that because he recently narrowed in hopes. He dismissed a $50 billion increase to a $928 billion Republican counter-proposal to his infrastructure plan, which he recently narrowed in hopes of bipartisanship. By Sunday, another West Virginian, Senator Joe Manchin, said that he believed negotiations were continuing in good faith. So, yeah, this is a guy who literally is clearly, he is someone in West Virginia, so it's not like he can get challenged from the left. Kyrsten Sinema, she clearly does not care about being in the Senate. She cares about something that we can't even possibly comprehend at this point. Like her mind isn't just in another galaxy, I feel like. So she doesn't really care about being pressured from the left or any other place. Like I don't think she really cares that much about being in the Senate. So those are the two Democrats in the Senate Democratic Caucus who are very, very happy to stand up there and take the heat. And who's also really happy that they're doing so? 10 or 15 others in the Senate Democratic Caucus who also probably believe the exact same things that they do. And if for some reason Joe Manchin or Kyrsten Sinema were forced to, or for some reason, had a brilliant change of mind and decided to, step down or from their high horse and change their positions and literally just being proven. Again, the story of this term, which has been absolutely incredible so far, has been watching Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema be like, please, can we have some bipartisanship? Please, please, please. Like little puppies looking up at the Republicans. The Republicans just taking a big, steel-toed boot, kicking them in the face as hard as they possibly can, and then they return like limped, bloodied, bruised. Please, can we have some more bipartisanship, please? Like even more desperate than the last time. It's so pathetic. It is just absolutely incredible. But it's important to understand. Look at where they started, already down from where their campaign plan was, Joe Biden and the administration there, already down from that, already trying to compromise. And what I think all parties hoped is they met up somewhere in the middle. Like, the truth of the matter is, the 25% of the Democratic Party that actually controls things, I think that, is really quite high, actually, probably like 15% of the Democratic Party, in terms of their aides and the people in Congress and the Senate and, Biden and Biden's staff. Like, those people who are actually making those policy decisions, they are perfectly happy to meet in the middle. Like, they just don't care. They don't care about, every single most important thing in that infrastructure plan, which, wasn't that great in the first place, but now has been, completely dragged mercilessly over to the Republicans. So, yeah, I mean, they just start ridiculously low. They meet somewhere in the middle, and they call it a day, and everything's happy. Like, they will receive the only people that get any benefit out of the bipartisanship here are the Republicans. Like, they look like, if they pass a deal, they look like, oh yeah, we got the opposition to significantly come down to our level. We negotiated. And you know what 99% of people don't care about? Bipartisanship. They care about the fact that roads and bridges are being built, and we have, a more fair society, and climate change doesn't come. Like, there are concerns that people all over this country have. And really what they care the most about is actually that they're able to, put food on the table, live a, secure economic life, provide for their families, just feel secure in being able to kind of exist in society. That's probably the thing that people will defend most intensely, I would say. But, in the end, this, that is so far from anyone in Washington's mind. It's really hard to see. It's not that actually hard to see why people just give up on politics. Manchin, a Democrat, declined to say how he would vote on a party-line infrastructure bill. I mean, he'd probably vote against it. He's now saying he'd vote against the literal bill that would keep Democrats in power and stop a complete Republican seizure of the levels of our democratic system. So, yeah, he wrote in the Charleston Gazette-Mail over the weekend that he would not vote for the Democrats' far-reaching bill to combat voter suppression, nor would he ever end the legislative filibuster, a promise that imperils much of the president's agenda. So, yeah, pretty much all of it. Biden offered several concessions to Republicans last week to try and win a $1 trillion infrastructure bill that could receive bipartisan support. The president has now cut more than $1 trillion from his initial $2.3 trillion proposal, while Republicans have added less than $100 billion in new spending to their first offer. But Republicans are still unhappy with Biden's plan to fund the bill by increasing taxes on corporations and the wealthy, make the bipartisan agreement a long shot. That's just something, again, the Republicans cannot abide because it pretty much goes against their core thing that, unites two very disparate factions in, the business side and the kind of the rube side, I guess you would call it, together. Those are the two things that really unite them together in any way. And it is clear to see that if they have if they're not doing any kind of tax increases, then everything just kind of starts to fall apart. The tax cuts on the rich and refusing to raise them ever again are very much clear that they that is the glue holding the whole thing together at this point. All right, let's take a look at Donald Trump now. It's very, very interesting to see what's going on. So when Facebook and Twitter barred Donald J. Trump from their platforms after the Capitol riot in January. This is by Davey Alba, Elikos, and Jacob Silver, New York Times. On Friday, Facebook said that the former president would not be allowed back on its service until at least January 2023, setting a risk to public safety. I don't know why January 2023 is such a, it's right in time for the general, so they can make some money. But since his ban and President Biden's inauguration, he has posted statements online far less often. But some of his statements have traveled just as far and wide on social networks. So they have a very interesting kind of graph. He's tweeted. He's engaged. There's a kind of little bubbles and stuff like that. There's a kind of a graph here pretty much which just shows you a timeline. The x-axis is, time playing out. And there's a big line right in the middle. This is where Donald Trump is banned from social media and where he's not. And there has been, all these statements that, small circles that get a little bit of engagement or big circles like 4.7 million when he tweeted on election night. I won this election by a lot. That was seen by 4.7 million people. The First Lady and I test positive for COVID-19. That was seen 4.6 million times on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Donald Trump banned from social media. Then it all kind of peters out. When the last statement that has big reach was, to all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. He made another statement around end of February, where he said, this has been yet another phase of the greatest witch hunt in the history of our country. Post-quoting this Trump statement on his second impeachment got 2 million likes and shares across social media, even without Trump being able to post it himself. But the reach has definitely declined. New York Times examined Trump's nearly 1,600 social media posts from September 1st to January 8th. The day Trump was banned from the platform. When he tracked the social media engagement with dozens of written statements he made in his personal website, campaign fundraising site, and email blast from January 9th until May 5th, which was the day Facebook Oversight Board, which reviewed some content decisions by the company, said the company acted appropriately, kicking him off the service. Before the ban, the social media posts with media engagement generated 272,000 likes and shares. After the ban, that dropped to 36,000 likes and shares, yet 11 of his 89 statements after the ban attracted as many likes or shares as the median post before the ban, if not more. How does that happen? Well, Trump had long been his own best promoter on social media. The vast majority of people on Twitter and Facebook interacted directly with Trump's posts, either liking or sharing them. But after the ban, other popular social media accounts often picked up the slack and pretty much posted himself. So last week he kind of shut down the blog, one of the places where he made his statements, because no one was going to it, but it was traveling far and wide in screenshots and posts and other ways, to the faithful and the faithfully, people who love laughing at him. Yeah, so they end up getting there no matter what. But on October 8th, Trump tweeted that then Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris lied constantly, and the post was liked and shared 501,000 times. On March 21st, Trump published a statement on his website saying the administration has handed over the most secure border in history to the worst, criticizing, of course, the Biden's handling of the border crisis. Our country was being destroyed, Trump said, is being destroyed. That statement was shared more than 661,000 times. So pretty much average statement, and I think also the fact that there's less of them mean that they're getting shared more often and they're traveling further because they're definitely less of a more frequent occurrence. So another big thing that happened here was that you can kind of see who is amplifying them. This is comparing the Trump statements spread before and after the ban. So Breitbart, Donald Trump fan pages on Instagram, Fox News was sharing them. Jenna Ellis on Twitter was really boosting them. And Facebook, Trending Politics, I Love My Freedom, and Breitbart were some of the big boosting accounts. I wonder what left-wing account was boosting Trump's posts the most. But post-quoting Trump's February 16th statement, where Trump derided Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, currently the minority leader, because of McConnell's unwillingness to back Trump's attempts to undermine the 2020 election. This was the statement he made on February 16th. Pretty much the way that worked out was on Twitter. It really went kind of far. Molly Hemingway was boosting it. Jim Acosta, Kyle Griffin. But on Facebook, Newsmax, Fox and Friends, Washington Examiner were boosting it. BBC News and Stand with Mueller were kind of lumped in there, boosting a lot, but it didn't really go very far on Instagram. So the top shares on the right included Global Disinformation Index Analysis. According to the Global Disinformation Index Analysis, included Fox and Friends, a cable news show, and right-leaning publications, and Washington Examiner. Before the ban, Trump's post garnered 2.2 million likes and shares. After the ban, his post garnered 1.3 million likes and shares across Twitter and Facebook. So that's a pretty big and effective ban. But in terms of his influence over politics, I think it's really kind of clear to see that Trump has, in many, many ways, had an incredible, or Twitter has had really an incredible way, impacted a lot of Trump's ability to kind of shape the discourse, because he isn't such a very immediate threat. Like, a lot of people now are talking about Biden. Trump isn't planning or promising or like threatening to do something in the future, but just given how profitable Trump was for pretty much everybody involved with him, and how so many people made so much money off of like kind of when the circus came to town, I think it's going to be really, really hard should Trump start like making noises and rumbling again more and more and more, that he actually like does something. And the same kind of circus MSNBC starts covering, or they still are really covering him in a big way, which is kind of funny to this point. But MSNBC starts covering him again, Fox News, CNN, and the whole big hype train starts up for another round in 2 years or whatever if he tries to run again. Which why not? Why not? Anyway, let's move on now to our last story before the halfway point. After 2 decades in the military, after earning this is in the New York Times here, after 2 master's degrees and navigating a successful career as a corporate coach, Victor Stemberger seemed ready for a peaceful retirement, but he had a new venture in the works. Stemberger of Virginia had a $10 million interface waiting for him, according to men claiming to be affiliated with the Nigerian Ministry of Finance. Through a dizzying web of more than 160 emails over the course of a year, Stemberger, this is kind of sad, then 76 somehow grew convinced. After 2 decades of 2 master's degrees as a corporate coach, the final step to collect his millions was a goodwill gesture. He would need to embark on a whirlwind tour to several countries, stopping first in Sao Paulo, Brazil, just to pick up a small package of gifts for government officials. All right, apologize for that. Had a little bit of technical difficulties in. The mic just went out. Kind of spazzed out there. But anyway, we continue. So this is a kind of interesting turn of events here. So pretty much what happens is the final step to collect his millions was a goodwill gesture. He needed to embark on a whirlwind tour to several countries, stopping first in Sao Paulo, Brazil, to pick up a small package of gifts for government officials. With that parcel tucked away safely in his luggage, Stemberger got out ready to board a flight the next leg of his trip. So the next day, his son, Vic Stemberger, received a text from a Spanish number saying, quote, "Your father is in prison." International criminals have long set their sights on older Americans, deceiving them with promises of money or romance, or sending them to unwittingly carry luggage filled with drugs or other contraband, hoping they will not raise flags in customs. But Stemberger's case shines a discomfiting light on the little-known program run by ICE, known as Operation Cocoon, which is devised to disrupt international drug trafficking rings. Under the program, ICE officials share information with foreign law enforcement agencies when they learn about the potential for smuggling, but critics say the program does not do enough to warn unwitting drug mules they're being duped. Instead, U.S. officials in some cases are delivering vulnerable older Americans straight into the hands of investigators in foreign countries, where they can be locked up for years. Especially if things don't work out, with the information sharing. The ICE can't just tap on the shoulder and be like, "Hey, you got the wrong guy here." If somebody from the U.S. government showed up at my father's house and spoke to my dad and saying, "Hey, look, we have reason to believe you're being scammed," there's 100% no doubt he would have dropped it. His father had been in a plane in a Spanish prison since the police arrested him as he got off the plane. So what he was picking up here was, again, remember, it was a small package of gifts for government officials for the Nigerian ministry, where he's supposed to get a gift of like $10 million or something like that. $10 million interface, whatever the hell that means. So his father had been placed in a Spanish prison since the police arrested him as he got off the plane in Madrid nearly 2 years ago, and found more than 5 pounds of cocaine sewn into jackets into his luggage, according to court documents. A Spanish court sentenced him to 7.5 years in prison. So ICE is in a little bit of trouble right now. So this is, again, they got this guy in prison. It was pretty much scammed by people claiming to be a Nigerian prince. So this is what ICE is up to at this point. Not really the best. So pretty much, or really, like this is kind of the battle, right, that they have to face. It's like, criminals or dupes, who are they, and how is this going to be how's this going to be dealt with? Since Operation Cocoon was created in 2013, the information shared by ICE has led to 400 travelers being stopped by law enforcement officials at foreign airports, resulting in 390 drug seizures. More than 180 of those stopped on suspicion of carrying narcotics were American citizens. 70% of those were over 60. And then that is really what you have to do. Criminals or dupes. That's really the question, is how do you figure it out? Because you really don't want to put some poor old grandpa away for life if he just got, duped by, a great $10 million interface. It's great stuff. Anyway, we're going to take a break and we will research. This is going to be the end of our part one. This is all the same episode, but part two, if you're listening on a podcast service, should just come up and start playing next. So we're going to end the stream now.